Welcome to Overwatch, and welcome to a roundup of how the ranked queue works. In this video, we're going to go over what factors the queue takes into account, how to optimize those factors for better games, and also a little on how the matchmaking itself is calculated. I'll try and dispel a few myths here and there along the way, and hopefully grant a better understanding of how the queue works. Before we begin, it'd be remiss of me not to preface, I have no internal knowledge of the secret workings of the queue from Blizzard, only from what I've read from people's accounts and a few statements here and there in various interviews and developer updates about what the queue looks at and some understanding of how some other similar queue systems also work. So let's get started. From what I can tell, the Overwatch queue system, both quick play and ranked, takes into account a whole heap of things, some in-game, some out-of-game, and these include, in no specific order, your matchmaking rating or skill rating, your ping and location, whether or not you're in a group, whether or not your friends are in a queue, and possibly, I'm not 100% sure on this last one, but about 80% sure, your projected skill rating. And also, very importantly, how long have you been in a queue? There might also be some more subtle things going on. I've got a pet theory that I'd need some more data to see that if servers remember if you've had good matches against certain players and it keeps putting you against them. Something like that can be very, very difficult to measure though. So what does this all mean? First things first, let's cover time in queue because it's the thing that you can control. Time in queue basically means that Blizzard do not want you waiting in a queue for a long period of time. During the beta we saw queue times jumping around a lot as Blizzard tweaked how aggressively the matchmaker tries to build a game. The more flexible it is, the more games it can make, and thus the shorter the queue. There's a clear trade-off though in match quality. A short queue can build a game very quickly, but by doing so has very loose parameters, basically building a worse match than if it waited a bit longer. Of course, it isn't quite that simple. Basically, the parameters to make a match start to relax the longer and longer you've been in a queue. Honestly, Overwatch has an extremely fast queue to get into a match, very rarely going past 5 minutes. I found that once you're over the 3-minute mark in a queue, that's when things start to get really more notably relaxed in how it's making a match. The moment you're nearing that 3-4 minute mark in a queue, it might be worth considering dropping out and re-queuing. This is more for ranked mind. In quick play, it really doesn't matter that much. Once past that mark, all other variables start to relax a little bit. So one of the biggest governing the match, of course, is going to be your skill rating. Think of this like the linchpin in what the match is going to be. If you're solo, great. Everyone in the match is probably going to be only a few spaces within that rank. If you or the enemy team is duoing with a big rank discrepancy, that's when things start to get really screwy. Also know that the further away your rank is from 50, the more variance you are going to see. This is just by, well, weight of number. I did a little bit of maths and about half the player base is between rank 45 and 55, so matches around that rating should see somewhat tighter skill ratings. When you start to look around rank 40 or 60, expect more variance and more difference between the ranks presented. Getting far more extreme post rank 70 and rank 30, and rank 80s, well, they'll rarely see more than 3 or 4 other rank 80s in any one game unless they're all playing at the same time. Basically, the further away from the median your rank is, the more careful you're probably going to want to be about when you queue and how long that queue lasts. I mentioned in the intro that it's also very likely you have a projected skill rating, a hidden rating that the game thinks you should be at. This is generally a little less tightly defined than your actual skill rating because it's not relying on you ranking up to figure it out. The projected skill rating is used in an awful lot of queue systems elsewhere, almost as like a normalizer. If you're clearly better than the rank you're at, having a projected skill rating will help fish you out of where you are much faster because the ranked queue will give you more reward as you progress towards that projected rank. The inverse is also true, by the way. If you're above where the game thinks you should be, expect to drop down relatively quickly. This is pure speculative territory, but I believe the game does build a projected skill rating from your performance across both quick play and rank play, then tries to guide you to where you need to be. Projected skill rating has an advantage in that it's in the background. It can swing back and forth pretty wildly and freely based on less than perfect factors and build accuracy the more you play and the more you move towards it. Let's quickly go over a couple of other factors. Ping is actually one of them. The game has servers located in a bunch of different places, East Coast and West Coast, as well as South America and Australia if you're in the Americas region. Not quite sure where they're located in Europe, but I'd be surprised if there aren't some around the Netherlands, in that kind of area, around Benelux, and a couple closer to Russia. The game does its best to try and match people close to each other. If nobody from your area is online, expect the queue to take a bit longer, and if you're queuing, let's say your friend from Europe has decided to come over onto the Americas servers and has decided to queue with you, expect some high ping variance in the game that you're going to be queued to. It'll probably shove you, for example, onto the East Coast. Grouping is by far the biggest wrench in the works for how matchmaking figures out a game. Overwatch is actually extremely generous with how grouping works. Let's try and put it into some perspective. I am rank at the time of writing 68. Judging from data from third-party websites, this puts me in about the top 3 percentile. Let's phrase that another way using League of Legends terms, because I'm familiar with it, as are a lot of others. That puts me in Platinum 2 in their system. If I queue with someone who is rank 60, they're about Gold 2. Overwatch's system allows me to queue with people that are 15 levels apart, and a rank 53 is around Silver 1. If you're familiar with League, then Platinum 2 and Silver 1 are complete worlds apart. The biggest advice I can give you with grouping is try to have everyone in the group as close as possible. If you can't, try to make sure the higher ranks outnumber the lower ranks. Overwatch is a game where it's very difficult for one person to carry, and the matchmaker kind of works ignorant of that factor. To build a fair average team rating, you'll often find one high rank plus 5 lower ranks, basically all fairly below the average, against a team that are all relatively near the average. It's a really brutal position for the person in the higher rank, and often a loss. The playstyle and knowledge gap is so dramatically different that it means the higher rank is playing incorrectly for that current rank and skill level, and the lower ranks are unable to take advantage in openings what the individual higher ranked player can create. If you are higher ranked and want to carry a lower ranked friend, just be cautious. The average match will usually fall very far away from your rank, and the people play very differently about every 5 or so ranks apart. The major change, of course, is when you group up as a 6. It is rare for a 6 to go up against a non-6. Sometimes they do go up against a 5+1, but the games that I've mostly played when playing in a 6 deck have gone up against another 6s. When you are playing in a 6 deck, the games just feel very different to non-6 games. They're much more coordinated, there's a different meta and higher expectation all around. Again, just keep an eye on queue time. Once past 4 minutes, resetting the queue is definitely not a bad idea. When you're doing that, what you're basically doing to the game is saying, hey, I don't want to play in a worse game, I would be fine waiting another 3 or so minutes for perhaps a higher quality match. Honestly, I find the sweet spot for grouping to be in a group of 3. More than enough to functionally make a big difference on the match. The people you bring with you can also weigh the average of the team also into your favor and give you a good venting place in the event that some of your teammates are perhaps less than desirable. Just do it in private and don't go bullying people, you know, just don't be an arsehole kind of stuff. I'll quickly touch on a few other things I mentioned in the intro. If friends are queuing and if it puts you with people you played before in the matches that this system has found to be close. These apply more to quick play. I really hope they don't carry over into rank. You do get some of this effect after you finish a match where the same people will likely be re-queuing, so you'll probably get the same players again. If you play with people you didn't like in the previous match, give it a few minutes. That should help dodge them. There's also a few myths floating around, like a forced 50% win rate, for example. The idea that you intentionally get given bad teammates to sink your win rate to 50%, while the enemy team perhaps gets better teammates than they deserve because they want the enemy team to win. I can get why it feels like that at times, but the notion that the matchmaker is intentionally sabotaging your games and everyone else's to get them to 50% win rates is just bizarre. To me, it's always sounded like a really feeble excuse. My win rate is 50% because of the matchmaker. All my losses are the matchmaker sabotaging me, while my wins are my own. Surely your wins would just be the other team getting sabotaged, but which player on the other team? All 6 of them? Is the matchmaker doing this to all 12 people in the game? How is it doing that so well? It's really paranoid. Another one is win-loss streaks giving you more of a rank shift each time you win or lose. Odds are, if this is happening, it's probably down to that predicted skill rating thing I was talking about. You're just moving towards it, and it's adjusting based on the results that you're getting, so if you're winning a lot of games, then it might be pushing that projected skill ranking a little bit higher, or if you're losing a bunch of games, it might be sinking a little bit lower. As a result, you'll probably see more dramatic shifts in rank as a result. As far as I know, however, there is no built-in win streak bonus going into rank adjustments beyond what there could be in a projected skill rating system. When looking at how your rank shifts, the game does take into account a few different things. Stuff like your performance in the match, which mostly seems to be tied to the on-fire rating, or that just being on fire a lot is correlated with good performance, so therefore, if you're on fire a lot, you're going to see a positive rank change. and of course your rank and skill rating compared to the average of the match. Basically, if you are high above the average and you win, well, you're not going to get a huge amount of skill rating. If you're far below the average and you win, you should expect to see a lot gain, and of course the opposite is true when you lose. I'm not certain, by the way, but there's also a chance that the game could factor in if sudden death was required to win, giving lower returns on rank changes if the game went that far. Alright, let's round it up. If you want the best out of ranked queue, the biggest thing to keep an eye on, of course, is queue time. It's the thing that you can control the most. The more divergent your rank, the further you are from the median, which is rank 50, the tighter you'll want to be on queue time. Remember that leaving the queue is basically you saying, I am fine with waiting another 3-4 minutes just to get a better, more high quality game. Also, if you finished the game and had someone trolling or being unpleasant, or you just didn't like playing with them for whatever reason, you might want to wait 5 minutes, 6 minutes, just for them to make sure that they're already in a different game, and you don't have to play with them once more. If you're playing with a friend also that is very different rank from you, be aware that this is going to likely give you a very, very vicious match where your team is way off average and far below your skill rank, while theirs is going to be probably closer to the average and therefore probably a better team all round. When in doubt, avoid groups with a big spread, and if you're passionate about your rank, you might just want to hold off on playing with some of those lower ranked friends. Sorry, but all you're really going to do probably is drag yourself further down. The final thing I want to say is this, and it's quite simple. The more you play, the better. All ranking systems need information to figure out where you should be. It also means that a single loss will feel lower impact in the long run, as you'll probably bounce across a few different skill ratings. Playing better than the average will also mean you rank up and de-rank less for each win that you get and loss that you get respectively. In short, the best way to climb ranks is to be a better player and just consistently play well. And then just hope that you don't keep getting coin flips and losing matches anyway. Can't wait for that system to go away. Anyway, thanks for watching to the end. I have been one amongst many talking about the queue system. If you guys think I missed anything, then do let me know in the comments, but I think I managed to cover just about everything and how you can also impact the queue to make sure that you're playing well. One thing as well, just to finish up, is try and play around prime time. There's just more players around and you're going to get better matches as a result. Toodles.